Look, these impacts are so widespread that it's almost impossible to describe that in just 1 minute. It begins even before children are born. What happens with heat waves is that there is a much higher incidence of preterm labor. So babies are born too early, and that's risky for newborns. What happens with heat waves is that breast milk quantity and quality goes down, again with risks for newborn babies. And newborn babies, because they're so small, they can't deal with heat. It leads to organ failure and therefore more children dying. Now, what you read in the paper is about flooding coming from climate change, and that leads to vector-borne diseases like dengue, like malaria, and again, it's always children that bear the brunt. But equally, it's about less rain, and it's about crop failure, it's about malnutrition. And what happens if in the first 5 years of your life you do not get enough nutrition? It leads to lifelong cognitive disabilities. You cannot recover from that. That's what climate change does. And what it also does, and we tend to forget that, is that it leads to displacement. Because there's no food, or there's too much water, or there's a calamity like a tornado or a cyclone, children have to go on the move. 43 million children each year. And because the economic shocks of climate change are so big for families, it leads to a violation of particularly girls' rights, because girls are being married off. We've seen in Bangladesh ages 11 to 14-year-old girls are being married off because parents can't cope with the economic shocks. But we also see this in Ethiopia. So climate, from the moment you are born, throughout your life as a child or a young adult, will impact your ability to survive and to thrive in today's world. And we have to act to change that. Well, I can't speak for the why. I can tell you what we have seen. You know, this is the 28th COP. And in all these COPs so far, there is not one decision that speaks to the special vulnerabilities and needs of children as I just outlined. So this has got to be the COP where we make that change. We've also seen, we've analyzed that 1 billion children in the world, particularly in low and middle income countries, are at risk. But of the overall climate finance portfolio, just 2.4% is programmed in a way that's sensitive to children's needs. So we really have to change the equation. In the report of the IPCC, the biggest research report that informs decisions, children and young people are mentioned only twice. So this has to be the COP, and I'm very grateful to UAE presidency of this COP, that they have allowed young people to stand up, to speak up, to participate in decisions that affect their lives, because that will change the trajectory of the climate negotiations and the outcomes. This is about their future, their trajectory. What needs to happen is what I call the 4 Ps. We need to, A, protect children against the worst impacts of climate change. So we need to bring down those emissions radically. We need to protect children from climate impact. So we need to adapt to build resilient communities so children are safe, not just they survive, but they thrive. We need to enable children to participate in decisions in the COP, but also writ large in decisions that affect their lives. And we need pecunia, the money. 2.4% of climate finance is going to child responsive programs. We have to do more as temperatures rise. We need to rise to the occasion and ensure that climate finance benefits children worldwide from now on. Look, loss and damage is a reality, right? I think the science is very clear. We have irreversible damage to the planet and irreversible damage to children's ability to thrive. So the fact that the Loss and Damage Fund is there is incredibly important. What we need the Loss and Damage Fund to do is really take a child-sensitive perspective to program, and we need to ensure that when they take decisions on what is being funded, children are participating in those decisions. It's not my generation that needs to decide what children need. It is children that decide what it is they need. So how we govern the Loss and Damage Fund will be equally important to how much we program for children.